Lisa McMann is the author of over 24 books for young adults and children. Some of her most well-known books are the Unwanted series, and those are for middle grade readers, and the Wake trilogy for young adults. As we were preparing for tonight, Lisa said that we were going to have a blast. So be sure your cell phones are silenced. Let's enjoy the party, and please welcome with me, Lisa McMann. Thank you. I'm gonna just flip this open. So I brought along part of my school presentation. This is a presentation that I do at schools around the country, virtually and in person. And I have been to hundreds and hundreds of schools around the country and in Canada. And I love doing school visits. I've taken out all the slides about, doing revisions and editing because, we're not doing that today. But I've left in just some information about my different books. And I thought it might be fun for you to see some of the book trailers and stuff like that. So I'm going to be talking about that. Did you see this puppy? Oh my God. I thought it was a stuffed animal at first, and then it moved. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. What's it cute? Theo? 11. Oh, it's for the good boy. You're a good boy. Oh my goodness. Wow. Can't go on after that. But anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about Map of Flames, and I'll talk a little bit about the Unwanteds, and I'm going to mention Clarice the Brave, which is a standalone book that I've written, and even Going Wild, which came out quite a while ago and is a trilogy as well that I've written. But Map of Flames is the first book in a brand new series. It's my 28th book. So I have 8 young adults books and 20 books for middle grade. And this book came about, I don't always know exactly how the books come about in my brain, but I think the thing that really got me started thinking is the movie The Incredibles. Do y'all know that movie? Yeah. Love The Incredibles. And I love the fact that the kids are so involved in the supernatural, all of the fighting and just all of that stuff. I just love that. And I got to thinking, well, what about the children of the villains? And I kind of have this little dark side to me. If you've read The Unwanteds, you might know that. But I love Aaron in The Unwanteds. He's kind of you do too? Yeah, he's so he's my favorite. He's the most favorite to write. But I got to thinking about those villains, supernatural people, and what about their kids? Would they follow in the footsteps of their parents or not? And what happens if their parents do something kind of terrible to them when they're 10 years old, like leave them all alone, stranded in a hideout? And that's what happens in this book. The book begins with these 5 kids, and their parents 15 years ago escaped from the big city of Estero, and they came to this hideout that they've been working on and preparing in case they'd ever have to go to it. They fled to this hideout on a deserted tropical island, and they raised their families. So 8 supernatural criminals fled the big city, went to this hideout, had these 5 kids. 3 of them are 13, 1 is 11, and 1 is 10. 3 years before the book begins, most of those parents disappeared. They went off to get supplies, or so they said, and they never came back. They went off in 2 different groups. The first group went to get supplies. They never came back, so another group went after them to look for them, we think. And they didn't come back either. And so one of the parents stayed behind to take care of the kids, and he got sick. And he has just passed away, leaving the 5 kids alone. And the book begins with the funeral. After the funeral, they're burying the dad who stayed. And his name is Lewis Golden. He's the father of 2 of the kids. He's the father of Birdie, who's in the middle, holding that map. And Bricks, who's the up high one there with the little green glow in his hand. So Birdie and Bricks are brother and sister, and then all the other kids have different parents. They're all single children. So the book begins with this, after this funeral, and Birdie's just a mess, and all the kids are a mess because Lewis was the one who stayed, and he was the good dad, and the other ones all left and didn't come back. And so there's some hard feelings there and some sadness. And they know that going to Estero would be dangerous because it is against the law to be supernatural. So they've talked about going in search of their parents, the missing ones, but decided ultimately that because some of them have traits that are really obvious, if they're obviously supernatural, that they wouldn't be safe going to Estero or anywhere in the world without getting into some trouble. They could get arrested, and that's really scary to them. And add to that, they've never seen technology before. They don't know how electricity works. They know what cell phones are, they know what cars are, but they don't really know how they work, or they've never seen one. And they definitely don't know how the internet works or anything like that. So they're nervous about that kind of stuff too. They've lived in this tropical island their whole lives in this hideout. But then Birdie, the oldest, she's going through her father's things after the funeral, and she begins to just kind of pull stuff out of his crate. And she finds a note that has her name on it. And she opens it up and she reads it, and it says, "Dear Birdie, I want you to go to Estero, find your mother, and give her the map that I made." And Birdie doesn't know anything about a map, but she sees a scroll in the box. So she pulls that out, she opens it up, and it bursts into flames. I forgot to mention, her dad has a fire charm. So that's his ability. He makes fire. So it bursts into flames. So it doesn't surprise her too much because she knows her dad would do something like that in order to keep other people from wanting to open it again. So she opens it up, the flames die down, and she looks at it and she says, she sees that this is a map to Estero. And also on the map is a spot marked that's where the secret stash is hidden that these supernatural parents left behind when they fled 15 years ago. So now she's got this information from her dad. He thinks that mom is in Estero. And also there's this hidden treasure. Maybe with the map, they could help find it and help their parents in whatever trouble they might be in, and fix some problems there. But again, they would be in grave danger. So there's about to be a fight at the very beginning of this book. I'm going to show you a little video. This is a book trailer about this series.
People called our parents criminals, but we know the truth. They were shunned for having supernatural gifts. Now we're using our own powers to track down our missing parents and find a treasure that could change everything. We're the Forgotten Five. Remember the name.
So I thought I'd introduce you to these characters. First, we have Birdie. She's the oldest. Her supernatural ability is that she can communicate with animals. So there are some whales that she's been talking to, octopuses, a raven that has become very close and brings her gifts all the time, and a tiny little pig that she has adopted as her own little pet. Yes, his name is Puerco. And so Virgo the pig is her, sort of like her familiar who goes with her everywhere, and she can talk to them through her mind without actually saying anything out loud. Her little brother is Bricks, I mentioned him before. And Birdie is a typical firstborn. She's, she's a leader. She is a little bit bossy at times. She really wants things to go her way, and she will fight for that. But she's also really great at helping the other kids come, make decisions. Now that they've been through this trauma, they've lost some of their parents, and then now they are trying to decide what to do. She's she's a sort of a force for all of them to lean on. She's kind of been dreaming of going to civilization. She's always wondered what it would be like. And even though they all decided they were going to stay, now she's got this note and these instructions from her dad, and she's feeling more and more like they maybe should go to see if they can find these parents. So that's a little bit about Birdie. And 7 Palacio is the next child. He's just a little bit younger than Birdie, and those two are best friends. They're super close. They've just always been close together ever since they were little babies, and they agree on a lot of things, but once in a while they disagree on some things as well, and they're about to disagree now. 7 has an ability that is a camouflage ability. His father has an invisibility ability. That's how we say that. But his father can turn it on and off, so he can be invisible or be visible. But 7, when he turned 10, that's about the time when kids find out what their abilities are. He just started fading away. And it was really scary for him because he wasn't sure what was going on. And slowly he would just start blending in with the background. Except for, his shorts and t-shirt, which he won't go anywhere without. He doesn't care if you can't see him. He's just gonna wear that. Okay, he's 13. Let's be real. So if you're looking at 7 walking along the beach, his arms, his legs, his hair and face will all blend in with the water behind him and the sand. And you'll just see his clothing moving along the shore. So that's a little bit troubling for him. He's realizing I'll never be able to see what I look like again. So he's got a lot of stuff like that happening in his brain right now. And he's nervous about going to a place like Estero where he would be obviously supernatural. Somebody would look at his shorts and t-shirt walking down the sidewalk and go, that's not a regular person. He's an excellent climber. He really wishes his parents hadn't ignored him when they were here in the hideout with him. And kind of wants to have some words with them about that. But he doesn't want to badly enough to actually go in search of them. And like I said, he would be in grave danger if he went to Estero. So he and Birdie are going to clash on that. Next, we have Tenor Cordoba. And Tenor is also 13. He just turned 13. And he's super awkward. He finds himself trying too hard to be friends with everybody. He really wants to get in tight with 7 and Birdie, but he just can't seem to break the seal into their friendship. And whenever he tries, he just keeps talking too much. He says too many things. He's, trying to be too nice, and it's just not working. But he doesn't know what else to do. He's not really close with the younger two either. They're a little bit younger, and he's just trying to figure out how to be social with them, and it's difficult for him. In fact, he's got this very cool ability. He can see a really far distance. He can hear things that nobody else can hear. And he can hold his breath for 30 minutes. So he's naturally the fisher person of the group. So every day he's going out fishing for everybody. And he's kind of, the ocean has become his best friend. And the ocean doesn't judge him. The ocean doesn't care if he's awkward. He doesn't have to talk to the ocean. He can just be there. And so that has become a place where he can go and maybe cry a little bit if he needs to, if he's feeling bad. So that's a little bit about Tenor. He's really glad his parents left. He doesn't miss them. They were terrible to him, and he hopes he never sees them again. At least that's how he feels right now. So that's a little bit about Tenor. Then we have Cabot Stone. She's 11. She is naturally brilliant and has a photographic memory, which means she can kind of memorize things very, very easily. And she doesn't have a supernatural ability, though. She's just naturally got those abilities. But her supernatural ability never came. When she turned 10, she was waiting for something cool to happen, and nothing did. And she's really annoyed by that. And she pretends like she's not, but she is. She's a very sneaky person. She loves to spy on people. She knows where everybody is at all times, and she can see them all from the top of her little tree house that she's built. So she can see 7 over on the cliffs collecting bird eggs. She can see Tenor going into the ocean with his fishing spear. She can see Birdie out on the rocks talking to the whales. And she can see Bricks down by his father's grave crying. And she's a little bit judgmental too. Like, she'll think Birdie really ought to be over there comforting him, not talking to her little friends, the whales. So, she'll judge. She also doesn't have a problem sneaking around into other people's cabins, and in case there's something in there that she needs to know. She doesn't have a problem with that. And then if anybody does have a problem with it, well, that's too bad for them. So that's a little bit about Cabot. She's very sad about her parents being gone. She thinks something terrible has happened to them because they didn't come back. Because she thinks there's no way they wouldn't have come back. All the kids loved them. Everybody got along with those parents, and she's just shocked that they didn't come back. So something bad must have happened. And then we have Bricks Golden, who is 10 years old. He's happy-go-lucky, usually, except, not right now because of the death. He's just figuring out his abilities. He sort of stumbled into, and that's a good way to say it. He sort of stumbled into figuring out what his abilities are. He has very bouncy feet. And this has just started happening, where he can jump off of high places and he just sort of bounces when he lands. And if he does get hurt, he heals rapidly. And you can, like, if he gets a cut on his arm, you can see the cut heal up. So he's got this healing thing. He's got these bouncy feet. And lately he's starting to bounce with every step. Like, it's not just when he's jumping off of something, but it's every step he takes, he's now bouncing. So he's worried about going to a stero and being sort of caught and going to jail. He doesn't even know what that is, but he's worried about it. So that's a little bit about Bricks. So now I want to know from you. And if you would just stand up when I say the name of these 5, and if you think which one do you think is going to be your favorite? So do you remember them all? I can go through them again. So we have Birdie. She's the oldest. So stand up if you think Birdie's going to be your favorite. And so Birdie fans, yes, wonderful. So Birdie is the one who can talk to animals, and she's kind of a leader. Cool. Okay. And next we have 7, the camel boy. Who thinks 7 is going to be their favorite? Go ahead and stand up. Anybody for 7? Nobody for 7. That's the first time I've had nobody for 7, and now I feel terrible. Matt, you're standing up for 7, right? All right, good. Awesome. Then we have Tenor. He's the awkward one who does the fishing. Awesome. We love Tenor. Now I want you to know Tenor's a little bit of me. I have that awkward thing happening all the time where I talk too much, like I'm doing right now. And so I love Tenor. I kind of make Tenor and Cabot are both a little bit of me. So then go ahead and sit down. And who thinks Cabot's going to be their favorite? All right, awesome. Oh, we have a lot of Cabot fans today. Very awesome. Wonderful. Okay. So Cabot is the sneaky one who doesn't have an ability yet. And then Bricks, our bouncy boy. Who likes Bricks? Yes. All right. Usually Bricks gets the most from all of my audiences, gets the most love. So it's nice to see Cabot get a little bit today. Wonderful. So that's a little bit about Map of Flames, the first book in the series. Book 2 is coming in November, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But I thought I'd also mention to you about my Unwanted series. Oh, has anybody heard of the Unwanted? Yeah. Cool. Has anybody read all 14 books? Wait, arms way up. Who's read all 14? Very, you're close, right? Okay. Who's read all 7 of the first series? Wow. Awesome. This is wonderful. Oh, lovely. So the Unwanteds was a Nutmeg Award winner in, I think, 2014. Do you know? Somewhere around that year. Yeah. So that was very exciting. I was very happy to know that. That's kids in schools all around Connecticut were reading the Unwanteds, and that was just wonderful. So that became just a series that I adored writing, and I loved every single book. I never got tired of writing that series with 14 books all together. And for those of you who don't know about the Unwanteds, it is about a world where children, if they're caught doing something creative at the age of 13, they'll be considered unwanted and sent to their deaths. And then everyone dies, and that's the end. Is that how it goes? Yeah. Wait a second. They don't all die. So luckily, those Unwanteds find themselves in a hidden magical world called Arteme. And the guy who's supposed to be putting them to death has secretly been saving these unwanted kids for years and teaching them to use their creative abilities to do magic for fun, but also to protect themselves in case they ever get discovered and have to fight. So here's a little video on this one. It's a trilogy, and Going Wild. Has anybody read that? Oh, fun. Okay, so Going Wild is about 12-year-old Charlie who moves with her family from Chicago to Arizona. And when they get there, they're unloading all the boxes and the boxes are all stacked up in the garage, and she's going through it and she sees a package that has her name on it. So she opens it up, and inside there is like a device, like a Apple Watch or a Fitbit kind of thing, and she puts it on, and it gives her animal powers. It gives her the strength of an elephant, the speed of a cheetah, and 3 other powers that I won't tell you about. But you'll find out when you read it. But the problem is she can't control the powers. The strength especially is just too much. She's breaking everything. She broke her phone screen just by tapping on it. And she can't get the bracelet off. It's stuck. So that's Charlie's problem with Going Wild. It's a trilogy. And here's a little video on this one.
Imagine that you were given the powers of the Unwanted, the speed of a cheetah, the strength of an elephant. And that's just the beginning. With all that power at your fingertips, what will you do?
So that's a little bit about that one. And then we have Clarice the Brave, which is a standalone. It's a little bit of a departure from my usual fantasy kind of books. It's still a fantasy, but it's more along the lines of like Pax or A Wolf Called Wander, if you know those books. Or if you're old like me, you may have read The Incredible Journey by Sheila Burnford, which is really what was the inspiration for me. I loved that book. I love an animal journey story. And this is about Clarice and her brother, Charles Sebastian. They are mice. They were born on a ship. They live in the pantry, and they can tell something strange is happening on the ship with the sailors and the captain. There's a lot of yelling. There's a lot of thumping of boots, and the tension is high, and they can tell. And when they realize what's going on, they discover that the captain is in shackles and the sailors are mutinying, which means they have decided to revolt against the captain and take over the ship. So that means the captain either goes in jail, walks the plank, or gets thrown into a tender or a lifeboat and set adrift. And so this crew has decided to throw the captain into the lifeboat, and all the people who are loyal to him will go with him. And then they start to pull some supplies so they can have some water and some food and maybe make it somewhere. They don't think they will. But as they're grabbing the crate that Clarice and Charles Sebastian live in, Charles Sebastian sees the captain's cat and takes off running, while Clarice huddles and shakes and is scared to death. And then someone's picking up the crate and whirling it around and dropping it into the lifeboat. And Clarice is in the lifeboat with the captain, and Charles Sebastian is on a ship being chased by a cat, and the boats begin to drift apart. And before Clarice can realize what's really happening, she's too far away. There's no way she can get back to the ship. And so she calls out over the waves, "I'm going to find you again." And they both decide they are going to find each other against the odds, being across the ocean from wherever they are. And so it's an animal journey story. And the captain's cat ends up in the lifeboat with Clarice as well. So she's got company. There's a little video of this one.
Clarice has always stayed hidden to stay alive. But on a lifeboat, in the middle of the ocean, with a cat, Clarice has nowhere left to hide.
book. That is Clarice. And I think that just about exhausts all of my middle grade books. But I wanted to tell you about The Forgotten Five of the Invisible Spy, which is book 2. We've got a new supernatural character who's on the cover. You can see her there in the front, too close to the front. This book comes out November 8th, and the story continues, and I don't really want to say anything about it because I know a lot of you haven't even read the first book yet, but this series has been a total blast to write. I'm so excited about it. I love these characters so much. Bringing them to a world where they don't know how to do anything was so much fun, and I think there's some pretty funny scenes about that throughout the series. And then they get to meet Lada, who is there on the cover, so that's very exciting. Kathy mentioned this earlier when she introduced this series, or introduced me. This little exclusive prize pack is available today only. If you want to pre-order book 2 from this store, they'll give you this little pack at the counter today. So that's fun. And I think there's plenty for everybody, so don't worry about missing out. You can find me on social media, which I'm pretty sure some of you follow me. Is this a family of 4 with 4 kids? Okay, I got you. I know who you are.
Yeah, we that over your comment.
Yes. That's wonderful. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. And I'm not on Facebook quite as much as the others, but you can find me there, follow me. That's where I introduce all the new book covers for the next books, talk about where I'm going to be. And so I hope you follow me there. And if you're sitting here thinking, I know somebody who would really love this, but isn't here tonight, I'm going to be in Monroe, just about less than an hour away, I think, on Wednesday at 4:30 at Turning the Page Bookstore. So if there's anybody who you think might want to see in person and just experience this, please send them over there. 4:30 on Wednesday is where I'll be. So yeah, that's it. That's everything. Should we give away some stuff?
Yes, and this is everything. The party continues. So everybody should have a raffle ticket. And before we do that, if we have 1 or 2 burning questions, is that okay?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
If somebody has a question, everybody should have a ticket. Let me know if you don't, and we'll do the raffle. Questions for Lisa? Anybody?
About anything.
About anything. Go ahead. I see you can't wait. Go
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, out of the characters that you have created, does this come from people that you interact with in real life? Like, do you draw from different people in your life, whether family, friends, or that you met along the way?
Sometimes, not very often, but once in a while, a character will be inspired by someone I know in real life. And that happened with Marcus today in the Unwanteds. So he was, when my daughter was 9, she has OCD quite severely. She's now 25 and a successful actor, and she's doing great. But back when she was 9, 10, 11, 12, she was having a really rough time with obsessive compulsive disorder. And we stumbled into theater with her. And where's it going with this? Oh, yes. So she started in a youth theater in our local area in Mesa, Arizona. And the director of the play was just perfect for her. He's this kind of scatterbrained, very artistic person. He doesn't have white hair that kind of flows in the breeze, but Marcus is his name. And so I named Marcus today after her director at this children's theater, which really helped her with her OCD, because for a short time, every time she was at rehearsal or doing a show, she could be someone else who didn't have OCD. And that just somehow really worked well for her. And she became an actor because of that. So, so that's where the inspiration for Marcus today came. and there's little bits of people in everyone, you know. I think of like, I think Matt makes an appearance, I'm sure, in many characters. Some of the things Matt does, just, you know, I just pick and choose little pieces of people and throw them into a character. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
Out of all of the forgotten 5 characters, including the new and second book, who is your favorite?
Out of all of the forgotten 5 characters. Probably Cabot, but maybe Tenor. I love Tenor's story and how much he has to overcome, and I love that, and he's trying so hard. I love Lotta, who you meet at the end of book 1. She's the one who's the new character on the cover of book 2. Lotta was inspired by someone, which goes back to your question. When I was a young bookseller, I worked at an indie bookstore for 10 years in Michigan. And I worked my way from working every Friday night and Saturday as a high school student to 10 years later managing the store. And I hired someone named Stacy, who had cerebral palsy, and I wanted to write a character like her because she was just wonderful. And so she's like in her 40s now, and you know, here I am. And I called her up, and we hadn't talked in a long time, and I said, would you be my sensitivity reader if I write a character with cerebral palsy, because I don't have a personal experience with that. And so when that's the case, then you want to try and find somebody who can make sure you're doing justice to the character. So that's who Lotta is based on. And so that's very exciting too. But yes, I love her. I just love them all. It just depends on the day. Anybody else? Yes.
Out of all the characters that you have written,
Out of all the characters I've ever written, who's my favorite? You know, it's Aaron. It's Aaron. I love writing Aaron. I think that could change in the Forgotten 5. I really, really love these characters, but I'm early in the series yet, and I don't really have this long relationship with them yet. But Aaron was I knew what was going to happen in Island of Graves, book 6, almost from the beginning, and I couldn't wait to get to that book so I could write what happens with Aaron. And I was so worried that I didn't know if I could do it because of what happens with him in that book. And so when I turned it into my editor, I was so nervous. I'm like, does it work or not? And she's like, oh, it works. So I was really happy to know that. Anybody else have a question? Yes.
so in the Unwanted series and Dragon Fire, and the part when the house was burning down, whatever happened to the king?
That's a really good question. So Dragon Fire, is that book 5? I think so. I start to forget after a while. I have an answer for that in my notes, I'm pretty sure, but I don't know exactly. That's a really good question. And I don't know if I bring that up again. Have you read all the way through the end?
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that in the signing line, okay? Okay, I'll try and remember. Awesome.
That's a perfect time for me to come in. Please, let's thank Lisa for her discussion. Here, I'm going to open it up because we have some things in here.
Yes, so we're gonna have 3 prizes.
Okay. You want to pick out what's first?
Yeah. Okay, so first we have a copy of Clarice the Brave. Let's sign copy of Clarice the Brave. Let's see who's gonna get this. All right, do you have your tickets?
I'll read the, happy to read the numbers. So Clarice goes to number 500384. 384? Maybe 384 left.
Oh, okay. We'll try it again.
Okay, now Clarice is going to 500393. 393. That's it. Clarice. We have a gift card to the store for $10. Ready? Ready. I'm ready to read. Okay. 500388.
Oh, the family's gonna do the screen.
And then we have
Yeah, I think we do it together. Yeah. All right, so I have an early copy. This is called an ARC, an advanced reader's copy. And these are the things that go to like reviewers. And I just happen to have an extra copy. It's been in my suitcase for like 10 days, so it's a little warped, but it's still a book. And one of the prize packs to go with it. So this is our
Great.
grand
And
prize.
before we do that, just a reminder that after this, we'll go back to the register for the signing line and the pre-order for today. We have these party packs. So if you pre-order today at the store.
I have a quick question. Is that gonna be available in hardcover also?
Yes, this is just
Okay.
an early copy, and they're always in paperback because they're cheaper to print that way, but it will be in hardcover for like a year before it comes out in paper.
So the winner of the grand finale. Okay, and the number is 500385.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Okay.